We worry about drought, we worry about pricing, we worry about equipment, we worry about financing. This tariff is just another thing that we have to.
Here's a question. How do you take the people who feed your country, keep your shelves stocked, and fuel your economy and turn their lives into a complete nightmare? Simple. Just add Trump's tariffs. Farmers in America are supposed to be the backbone of the nation. Instead, they're being used as cannon fodder in a trade war no one asked for. But is there a way out for them? Let's find out. So let's get this straight. America was promised the greatest economy ever. Instead, farmers, the people who literally feed us, are calling it a real disaster. And no, that's not me exaggerating.
And he is on a John Deere tractor for us today. It is a John Deere tractor, right?
No, it's not. But I do have a John Deere baler that the bearing went out of this year, and I will tell you, the bearing replacement had China on it.
Really?
Now I'm going to tell you, Katie, I would have loved to have a USA bearing, but the truth is, the most important thing was to get a bearing so I could get that baler running again, because every minute it was down, I was losing money and I was losing hay. So the point is that with all these doggone tariffs that the president has put on, it's interrupted our supply chain on the input side, like parts for tractors and balers and combines. It's increased the cost of new equipment because those parts cost more. So when they build a tractor or a combine, it costs more for the farmer to buy. And then on the other side of the equation, because of the trade and the tariffs, a lot of our customers have said, the heck with the United States, we're not buying your commodities anymore. So things like hard red winter wheat are at an all-time low for the amount of price we get at the farm gate.
I mean, are you making as much money as you were before?
Well, the problem is that when you have prices down, which they are because of we need to be able to sell to foreign nations, particularly the Pacific Rim, and you have input costs that are up, it doesn't leave a lot of margin for error. And quite frankly, Charlotte and I are fine because we've been farming for nearly 50 years. But the people who are new to agriculture, those young farmers who don't have the cushion, they haven't saved money for times like this, they're going to be in trouble. And a lot of those folks are going to go broke. And I would also say this, if this continues, a lot of folks like me are going to go.
That's the sound of the backbone of rural America snapping under the weight of tariffs. Think about it. These folks voted for the guy who swore he'd protect them, and now they're paying more to grow food than they can make selling it. That's not a disaster, that's economic betrayal in broad daylight. Farming has always been tough, but thanks to tariffs, it's like running a marathon with a piano strapped to your back. Fertilizer prices skyrocketing, equipment out of reach, fuel, forget it, and the immigration policy. Collectively, it made life a living hell for farmers.
Recorded.
I've been involved in dairy farming my entire life. I grew up on this farm. This is the farm my parents came to when they emigrated here to the United States, and I've been here ever since. We have about a dozen full-time and part-time employees, and the vast majority of them are of Mexican descent. They have moved here from Mexico. For 30 years, I've been hiring foreign-born people because there's not enough domestic people that want to come and work here. It's not my job to do the federal government's work and decide who's here legally and who's not. We're not going to sit here and spend a ton of time trying to screen, and we're not equipped to do so. If we're given documents, we're to assume that they are proper documents. We can get nostalgic about the good old days when there were more farms up and down my road and everybody had, 5 to 10 children and they all went out to the barn morning and evening to milk the cows and so forth. But my point is, right now, the actual current reality is that there are not enough human bodies to do the work that needs to be done. There's 6 pens normally in the barn. So what happens is guys like Luis, they come and bring the cows up from the pen, bring them to the holding area, and then they work their way through the parlor and come back to their pens. We have live animals out in the barn, right? They need to be fed, they need to be watered, they need to be cleaned up after, and they need to be milked every day, or they will die. These are living, breathing creatures that are our responsibility. My guys take that responsibility very seriously. So we can't just turn it on and turn it off. We've built an economy that relies on people, but we have a public policy that demonizes them. And to my way of thinking, that just doesn't make any sense. I think the changes that the administration and that Congress needs to make is to have some easier path to permanent resident status so that they've got legal status to be in this country and to be doing the work, so that they can travel back and forth without worrying, both on our local roads but also back and forth to get back home.
And what does Washington say? Don't worry, it's all part of the plan. Sure, if the plan is to bankrupt every family farm from Iowa to Indiana. It's like telling a drowning man the water is good for hydration. Watch what Trump has to say.
We have a lot of unhappy farmers in this country at the moment, and I'm sure the Prime Minister won't thank me for raising this. We've had changes to inheritance tax, which mean a lot of farmers feel they're going to lose their farms when they die or their father does. How important are farmers to a country?
You mean they're going to lose the farm because of estate taxes, I think? So what I've done...
Pay so much, they're cash poor, but they have great...
I know, well, they're cash poor. They're land rich and cash poor. A lot of people are... I've had that too. Sometimes I'm land rich and cash... Sometimes I'm cash rich and land poor. I like it both ways, but as they get older, I like the more conservative route. So I did something that I don't know if you can do, but it was great. I love our farmers. As you know, in our tax bill, we have a clause that's very important. We were losing a lot of farms to the banks because a loving mother and father would die and left their farm to their children or their child, but their children, their family. And they loved their family, and they thought they were doing them a favor, but they had a 50% tax to pay. So the land would get valued, and at a high number, because some of the farms were valuable, but they didn't, you know, they couldn't quantify it. And they'd go out and borrow money to pay the estate tax, or the death tax, as it's called, and they'd overextend, and they'd lose the farm, and they'd commit suicide in many.
Here's the kicker. Farmers aren't just paying more, they're earning less. Why? Because tariffs don't just raise costs, they trigger retaliation. And when China and others slap back, guess who's caught in the crossfire? Yep, American farmers.
This time last year, the rice price was about 40% higher than it is now. The inputs costs have gone up. So after a horrible year last year, where most farmers in Arkansas Delta lost money, this year's...
I'm a farmer from Newport, and we made the decision to go out this year in the spring. So my son will not be the seventh generation on our farm.
5 of my customers have committed suicide. That's how serious that...
Soybean farmers lost billions in exports practically overnight. One day they had buyers, the next, whoosh. Now let's talk about debt. Farming runs on loans, seeds, tractors, and land. But when profits vanish, that debt doesn't just shrink, it mutates. It grows like a weed.
If your choice as a farmer and a worker is, I'm not going to harvest my crops and make a profit, or as a worker, I'm not going to be able to get a job, you just work around that system, and that's led to undocumented immigration. I really believe that this is a direct result of having people in control of agricultural policy that just don't understand agriculture.
Farmers are forced to refinance, delay equipment upgrades, or even sell off land just to stay afloat. Meanwhile, bailouts are handed out like band-aids on a battlefield. Washington calls it relief. Farmers call it what it is, survival mode.
Yes, and the president's trade war has put America's farmers in a pathway of complete destruction. It's planting season, and farmers should be planting their crops, but instead, the president is playing footsie with China. And recently, the beef industry, China was purchasing beef. They're now going to be purchasing that from Australia. That's $2.5 billion out of America's pockets. Recently, China purchased a large soybean order from Brazil. That's money out of America's farmers' pockets right now. So the president said in that speech that you just shown, farmers go out and have fun. There's nothing fun about losing your farm. And we have farmers on the line that are on the brink of complete failure. And Right now, every time the president says the word tariff, the price drops and the markets, drop for farmers. Farmers are price takers, not price givers. So we have to sell corn, wheat, and soybeans based on what the markets are. We don't set the markets, and the president is causing havoc every time he says the word tariff. The prices drop, and bankers don't want to extend credit to America's farmers. For the first time in a very, very long time, I don't have a farm operating loan, and it's planting season because the bankers are telling me, boy, we can't lend you money based on the poor market price at $9 for soybeans and $5 for wheat and $4 for corn. So the president should put some things in place to protect America's farmers now, provide emergency loans for farmers right now, and not put us on the back burner while he has put us in the pathway of destruction with his trade war. Farmers didn't do this, the president did this.
And don't think this is just numbers on a chart. These are families, generations of farmers watching their life's work unravel. Listen to that. Complete havoc. Imagine telling your kids you might lose the farm your grandfather built, not because of drought or disease, but because politicians in DC are playing a tariff lottery with your livelihood. That's not policy. That's cruelty disguised as economics. So here's the million-dollar question. What's the way out? Farmers don't want handouts forever. They want fair trade and stable costs. But as long as tariffs keep stacking up, their future looks less like prosperity and more like foreclosure.
Equipment prices, and the tariffs are going to make farm equipment go up because the steel is caught up in that. Farmers are now in the pathway of slow getting parts. We rely on parts that come from some of these other regions of the country to keep our tractors going, and combines and harvesters and planters. All of the things that affect everybody affect us first, and then it's passed on to the actual consumer. So here it is, America's farmers who voted for this president overwhelmingly in this country are the first to get punched in the face by this administration, and they're kind of leaving us dangling out here like a carrot in a negotiating type style, while we should be planning for our crop season. So it's a very, very troubling time for farmers, especially for small farmers. I want to be very, very clear.
If we let the very people who feed us go under, who wins? Not farmers, not consumers. The only thing thriving here is chaos. And if we keep ignoring it, today's real disaster could be tomorrow's food crisis. So if the farmers can't survive, how long before the rest of us feel it? Let us know in the comment section. If feeding America becomes unprofitable, who's really winning this trade war?